When our son was a baby, our first child, I returned to work after maternity leave, and I was working really close to home, and things changed in my industry, and I found myself having to drive quite a distance, work at two different nursing home facilities on the same day. And one was about an hour and a half from home. They were an hour apart from each other. The other one was almost an hour away.
You did a triangle.
So I found myself driving a lot, and I was still nursing our child and pumping my milk and driving a stick shift. And the route I took was kind of a back 2-lane highway, but I was going against traffic. There was hardly ever any traffic. And I was young at the time. I was like barely 30. And I actually drove the stick shift while pumping my milk, driving to work.
And sometimes talking to me.
Have I talked to you on the phone at the same time?
I think so.
We didn't really use our cell phones back then, Don. This is like in 1998.
Oh, then maybe you're just screaming at me.
Have you ever had one of those days where you're brushing your teeth and you go, oh, shoot, I got, my shoe's on the floor. I need to put that away. You put your shoe away and like, oh, I remember I wanted to get those other shoes out and they're downstairs, and you run down the basement and you pull the shoes out, and then you're like, wait a minute, what was I doing? And you wind up back in the bathroom and you're like, what the hell happened to my toothbrush? And
which is probably on the bed.
Trying to do so many things at once.
Well, that's called parenting, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you wonder why sometimes you're holding your keys while you're searching for them, or your glasses are like glasses on top of the head.
Oh, I've been
while you're looking
on
for
the phone talking to someone, and because I use my phone for my calendar, I'm like, where's my phone? I need to find my phone. It's like I'm holding my phone.
Oh, hello, I'm Don.
And this is Gina
with Focused Healthy Family. And this is podcast number 79. And today we're talking about multitasking versus parallel processing.
Versus just plain parenting.
Going crazy, in other words. So, but before we do, let's take a moment for our sponsor.
Our sponsor is Q Sciences. I've been a representative for Q Sciences for over a year. I found this company through a friend and did some research and reading about these products. And I really like what I found when I learned about them. The research and time that they've put into the quality of these products to be better absorbed into the body. Things like the vitamin D spray. Our youngest was on a capsule vitamin D, and yet vitamin D levels remained the same with follow-up checkups. And with the spray, it increased.
Pretty strong.
Almost double.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're talking her levels were maybe 20. And I want to say they went up to 47 or something around that range. And the sleep spray is another great one. It's got melatonin, 5-HTP, and I believe another herbal supplement in there. And because it's a spray, you spray it on your tongue, it gets absorbed more quickly into your body to be more effective to help you in the moment. We're using the B12 spray. We've used the vitamin C spray. They have a Q Max product, which is a multivitamin.
And they also have the CBD, different, a variety of different.
It's full spectrum oils. Yes. They even have a THC-free version. It comes in different flavors. There is a mushroom.
Oh, yeah.
Armor. It's called Q Armor. It's a powder, and I get the chai flavor, put it in my chai tea for a double chai drink.
So instead of, as they say, flushing your supplements down, the toilet or the drain, you want to get something like this that's fully absorbed. It's like flushing money down the toilet, too, if you're not using a supplement that absorbs well and does well for your body. So that's what Q Science is really about. It's a good, well-absorbed, high-nutrient product.
They have multiple products. They have child-specific products. They now also have some facial cream products. I've been using a night cream to minimize the effects of sunlight and stress and aging on my skin. And they have a hemp lotion. That's also a wonderful product that we've tried. So check us out, learn more. You can find the link at our website.
www.focusedhealthyfamily.com. You can also go to focusedhealthyfamily.com/Q sciences, the letter Q and sciences.
With an S at the end.
With the S at the end, yes. And we're back.
We are, and going to talk about multitasking. And Don came up with this topic.
Well, I think people have a confusion about multitasking in a way.
I had a little more to say.
Oh, okay. Well, and the stage is now yours.
No, that's not what I wanted. Don came up with this topic, and I thought about how I'm juggling lots at once, helping out this kid with this thing, trying to load the dishwasher or finish cooking something or doing a load of laundry, kind of that doing multiple jobs at once in the house. And you took some time and did some research.
Yeah, just looking up some information about it. But my sister used to always say, well, I have one toe free, to do something. And I think multitasking, the concept of came from computers, because they can do multitasking, kind of same processing at one time.
You can have more than one screen open.
Yes, Windows. I remember how when Windows came out, and everybody was so amazed because you could be looking at multiple things. But I think people have this idea that they literally are doing two things at one time, at one moment, and really, this wasn't the first time I've read this, but what they're saying is that our brain really can't process more than one thing at a time. What we're doing in multitasking is we're stopping and jumping very quickly to different tasks.
Kind of like in exercise and weight training. Oh shoot, there's a name for it. Keep talking.
CrossFit or something like that?
No, where you just keep talking.
Well, I more I thought about it, is like, I kind of wanted to address it a little bit, because what this, let me get the article and read who wrote this article. Shoot. First, I can't get the paper apart. I'm saying a lot of ums here. There it is. It was written by, nope, I got the wrong one. Nope.
Well, you're finding it. So what I was talking about was cross training, where you do 10 minutes of cycling, and then you do 10 minutes of weightlifting, and then you do 10 minutes of something else. So you're really not doing multiple things at once. Like you talk about, you're focusing on one thing and then you're jumping to something else. So if I'm brushing my teeth and then I'm like, oh, I got to make the bed, I might still have the toothbrush in my mouth, but I'm stopping to make the bed. So like you said, your brain is jumping from one to another.
And it can do it so fast that we don't really conceptualize there's a jump there. This is by Kendra Cherry. Kendra Cherry, MS, is a psychosocial rehabilitation specialist. Wow, that's a mouthful. Psychology educator and an author of Everything Psychology book. And she wrote this article that I found talking about multitasking and talking about the fact that, like I said, that the brain can't do that. And then there's kind of some downsides to it, in the fact that
you lose your toothbrush.
Lose your brain too.
You worry the cop's going to pull you over? What are you going to say?
For instance, she said, because of the fact that it's really about distraction, we're catching to another thing, and that's kind of like a distraction, or it can be a distraction. And so a person that does what they believe is multitasking can be distracted, be less productive, make mistakes, because they're not really completing something.
As you're describing, it's like the opposite of mindfulness. In mindfulness, you do one thing at a time. You focus, you center yourself and focus on right here, right now. versus I got to do this, I got to do that. Didn't that help? Didn't that help explain
I
it?
like it. I got to learn to use my hands more. But and then I found when we've been talking about the parallel processing.
Oh, that's my ding ding ding.
That's kind of your cue. I'll just say the way I went in reading it, how I saw it is, it's multitasking is the thought that we're doing one task, a multiple task at a time.
And what you're really doing is jumping back and
Yeah.
forth between many different
And
things.
parallel processing really, the way I saw it was we're doing one task, like driving, while we're taking in the radio and a friend that's there with us talking, and we're watching the road.
And looking for the street that you're going to go on. So yeah, that's exactly what it describes. And this is very fascinating because I love brain psychology and how the brain works. So in cognitive psychology, parallel processing refers to the ability to deal with multiple stimuli simultaneously. So they give the example of driving. Our ability to process different kinds of stimuli at once enables our brain to carry out all these tasks at once. So looking at that different than multitasking, this article itself does not really stipulate that.
What I've seen so far is it's just they're very close in similarity. I kind of looked at it as processing is taking in, and multitasking is doing. There's something around that. To some,
I read it in here, and it talked about automation, where you get so good at something, whether it's typing, that you really don't have to put much energy to it, so that you can be doing something else at the same time. And they talk about an experienced driver. When you're really experienced, you can navigate those other aspects of the car, like the radio, much easier, because you're kind of we say autopilot, but the act of driving has become so rote in you that it's easy. It's like you think of, that's why young drivers, many states have laws, they can't use their cell phone and things, because they haven't gotten to that point where it's so automatic.
You want to read who that one, the parallel processing articles by?
Cynthia Vinny, PhD. She's an expert in media psychology and a published scholar whose work has been published in peer-reviewed psychology journals. I don't know why it says 4 sources. There might be more sources to this article. We'll have to share a link to it. It says parallel processing has many advantages. It also has some important limitations. How much information people can actually process in parallel. And there's been different answers that they've arrived at with different research.
Well, and that kind of brings up the idea of sensitivities, process. What do you call the sensory processing? The ability of, like, for kids, we talk about kids.
Sensory processing disorder.
Yeah, and overstimulation. I think that's what they were, in a way, talking about there.
Well, I mean, that's
only being able to take in so much before
taking in information. Yeah. So we take in information through our senses, our sight, our hearing, our smell, our taste, and our kinesthetic sense. So hands-on, touching, moving, feeling. And people can be hypersensitive to those different sensations. They can be sensory seeking or sensory avoiding. And so that's how we're processing information around us. And then, multitasking, you're doing things, you're engaged in specific activities.
So they kind of go in tandem with each other in a way.
It talks because it goes into how the brain works and how the brain, like you said, kind of looking at it almost like from a computer.
It's almost like you can take in a bunch, but you can only put out so much. Is that a little too simplistic in a way?
You can't take in, too much at once. Like this gets into a very scientific subject that's a lot for us right now in the middle of a move, but it certainly brings up some interesting different points because I've always thought about that some people, like, you tend to focus on one thing and you do one thing at a time
and want to complete it. I like to take it all the way to, I'm sorry, just for that.
Yeah. And for me, just my personality, I get bored only having one thing. And so my life has brought me lots of things. So I'm not bored and I'm ready to be bored now. Thank you, universe. But having multiple things I'm involved in, the balance is trying to do too many different things at once. There's a fine line there. It's like you wanted with the cleaning up, we're decluttering and cleaning up and packing. And you want I want to focus on one area at a time. I want to get the whole basement cleared and decluttered and packed. And in theory, I'm like, that sounds great. But the way my brain works, not that I'm going to try to clean here and clean up there too, but I'm not as linear with the processing. And so if I feel inspired to clean out the bathroom closet, I'll be much more efficient and productive if I jump into that and do it. So, we've been talking about how we want to pack and we have different thoughts about things, and you want to get everything just to the house before we figure out if we need to rent a storage building. And I'm like, I'm just picturing standing in this house full of boxes and feeling overwhelmed and not know where to begin. And it's like, I just want to have those boxes that we really need to live, just and then we can slowly get to the other ones, because we're going to need to be moving in and taking our kid to activities and working. I go to work and I'm going to be driving a little further, building our business. We're going to have to continue to do all these activities. Neither of us have a job where we can just take 2 weeks off and pack and move in.
Paid.
So, and we're not literally going to be doing all that at once. Yet it's kind of a juggling act, sort of like what I was thinking when you brought up this topic. It's all overlapping though.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned typing, and I'm just thinking about it. When I can type really well if I don't think about what I'm typing. I mean, if I'm looking at the words or whatever, or thinking about the word, but if I don't think about, I got to push this one and then this one and this one and this one. I'm not sure how that fits into this.
That's the automation. I'm not saying it right. Automation. Whatever. We'll look.
Somebody.
We'll put it in the notes, but it becomes so second nature to you that you're not having to put a lot of thought process to it.
Because if I make a mistake or I catch myself making a mistake, it throws me off, and then I slow down and I'm having to do it a little bit slower, and then it'll slowly come back to where I can keep.
And that's where spell check is nice, because it'll correct those little misspellings.
Sometimes not the way you want it to.
Well, at work, I don't really have a spell check. I don't find out when I've done a daily note. The only thing it checks for is if you have 3 letters in a row. So we can't abbreviate abdominal aortic aneurysm because it's AAA and it shows up in that. But that's the only thing it catches. It doesn't actually catch misspelled words. And I use the word assist a lot, and I'll put too many S's in, but it just tells me, this word is wrong in this section. And then I've got to go searching line by line to find it. Versus, having something like, the iPhone, the iPad, these things that automatically correct for you. And then it turns your text into other words. And another job I've worked, we used an iPad, and I typed up my note, and I'm glad I read over it because it said something about sex therapy. And I'm like, that's not the kind of therapist I am. And I forget what word, probably
not
6 or, so there's pros and cons of both. I've got this annoying program at this job. It doesn't really do
a husband at home.
A spell check. I didn't say that.
No, I did. I thought it was interesting. They talked about the process of information the process of information processing. And it's a 3-step process. First, you have a stimulus, then you process it in your brain, and then you come up with a response. That's pretty simple. I don't know. It seems like would be more steps to that somewhere.
Well, there's different levels of it. So you hear a sound off in the distance, and your brain goes, is that an airplane? Well, the other day we were
It's a bird. It's a plane.
We were all sitting in the laundry room together, and I'm like, is it raining? And you're like, no, I'm like, oh, it's the dishwasher. And like, no, it's the washing machine. So my brain was it was trying to
We were
interpret
upstairs,
the
actually.
sound it was hearing and identifying what the sound was. So you take in the information, your brain processes it and it determines
Tries to find
what it is. And if it's something that you need to respond to, you hear a very loud crack of thunder close by.
or your child screaming.
Yeah. Do you need to jump to do something to address that issue?
So we've gone silent.
You were talking about,
I'm trying to multitask at the moment.
yes, we are.
Well, this article talks about for multitasking how to kind of change it, how to help yourself with it so you are more productive. Let me get to that place.
Because if you're running around trying to brush your teeth and make your bed and find your shoes and
So the first thing they say is use the 20-minute rule. So it's kind of like that idea of breaking an hour down into 15-minute segments where you work on something for 15 minutes, stop, change, go to the next thing. And
rather than just trying to quickly run back and forth or try to.
yeah, well, like I said, it does you have a certain I think 20 minutes is about the limit of when you start losing your productivity, you start drifting off
your
of something.
focus. Okay.
So it's a smart way to do
So
it.
I got to make phone calls and I've got to do the laundry and I've got to type up an email. So I spend 20 minutes making phone calls. I take a break and I throw the laundry in.
Mhm.
And then I sit down and do my email. So you're breaking it up into
So
pieces. And maybe
you're
your projects take longer and then you go back to.
well, and you're really then, like I say, the focus is the big part of that. You're really focused towards that one thing and making it more productive. I'm sure if I understand this one, that they say batch your task. If you're having trouble resisting the urge to check your email or engage in another distracting task, schedule a set time in your day to tackle it. By batching similar tasks together and setting a time to handle them, you can free your mind up to focus on something else.
So if you kind of know automatically at 10 and 3 every day, I'm going to check my email. I think it's the idea that when you
I
have.
was going to say, I didn't understand the batch part of it. That would be doing multiple things. It doesn't say much more than that. So unless they're talking about, like you, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but kind of brainless task, like that you can, I don't know, you can eat a candy bar while you're checking email, or you can eat something while you're watching TV.
Yeah, I mean, there's many different ways to look at it. I'm not, yeah, because I think of, there's a task I don't really like doing. After I do that task, I get to do a task that I enjoy more.
Yeah.
Is one way. But I know when you do things, I've talked to this about with my kids, and I know I struggle to follow a schedule. But when you have a routine down, it takes less energy to do it.
Mhm.
We used to get into this battle with our kids with your job is to unload the dishwasher, and they'd argue about unloading the dishwasher for 15 minutes, and then it really wouldn't even take them that long to actually do it. But when it's automatic, you come, you do it, you get it done, and you free your brain up to be, maybe while you're doing it, you can be thinking about something you want to write or take care of later, and you get it done quickly because it becomes more
Row,
automatic. Gently down the stream.
The hand movement, I love it.
I never realized I did it so much until.
Is that the Italian coming in?
Well, what do you think? You're gonna stand like this, right?
Click our heels together. So they talk about limiting distractions. That's the next one on there.
Yeah, there was something I was gonna say to what you were saying.
About batching.
Yeah, and limiting distractions, because when you get distracted, you wind up with a conversation like this where we forget what the heck we're talking about.
So distraction. We'll do a little distraction here. When you were talking about like spell check and things like that, I think I talked to you about GPT.
Yes.
GPT.
That's become a big thing right now.
It is. I mean, and it's pretty cool the way you give it an idea and it'll pull together content around that idea. So distraction. We're back.
Oh, that was all you had to say about that? I thought
I
it
don't know why,
played
I
into.
just-
No, I thought you had more. Like I was waiting for the rest of it.
bro.
I think I'm trying to keep myself awake.
Is that what it is?
There's a lot going on.
And they talk about, of course, about practicing mindfulness. And that, of course, that's what you and I both
Mhm.
kind of are into and do, work with people and helping them find mindfulness. Because there you're really, how would you describe that? How would that tie in?
Well, I said that earlier, where you're focused on one
didn't
thing
hear
at a
it.
time. I'm being right here. I'm being right now.
Oh,
I do the thing with the positive intelligence with the PQ reps, and I'm just going to tune into the sounds I'm hearing. I'm just going to pay attention to the sound, and I'm not going to try to label it and understand it. I'm just going to notice it. And so it's
do
very
you
much,
want a sound? Is that what you? I can do a sound for you.
you're making lots of sounds,
Yeah,
focusing on one thing at a time. And sometimes I'll do that with myself because I can get busy running around like a chicken with his head cut off, a one-legged man in a butt kicking contest, however you want to say it. I'm foaming at the mouth with my toothbrush,
never heard of those people.
trying to run around the house and get things done. And it does create that sense of franticness and definitely less efficiency.
So we take deep breaths. We do some tapping with it.
But right now, if I hear the sound of the dryer, and I'm just going to focus on that.
I hear humming from the fan running in.
And you can try to hear the furthest thing away that you hear. And just notice it.
I hear the clock, the Big Ben clock in London.
You can hear that. This is not imagination time.
Oh,
And then what's the closest sound you can hear? I hear Don wiggling in his chair
that's squeaky.
and then trying to hear the sound of your own breath. If you don't have a husband wiggling his chair next to you, and you can pay attention to your breath. And tuning in for a minute, because I'm testament to trying to do a whole lot at once. Just yesterday, was it? I don't know what day it was.
Phone calls.
There are so many tasks we have to do with buying and selling a house. We have to contact the mortgage company. I had to contact the lawyer to give them information. The mortgage guy has to get information. Our realtor needed information. So I had all these different phone calls I had to make, all these different portals where I have to log in to give information. And you're sending me message, this person needs this. And I'm like, okay, which person was that? And which portal is that? And how do I get there? And I just, so I would be doing one thing. And then because I talked to my kids a lot yesterday, and then one of my kids called and we get talking about other things. And so I was just jumping back and forth between a whole lot. And because all those things needed to get done, but it was tiring. So I don't know.
Well, I think that's,
I write things out like I've got to do this and I've got to do this, and having kind of some organization can be helpful because then you can check off to know what you've done.
well, I think just recognizing that it is a matter of that you are jumping from one thought to another and trying to make sure you keep your focus on the things that you need to.
And for me, I was sitting down and doing the phone calls. Like I have other things to do. We have clearing out and packing and laundry and all this other stuff in the house. So I'm going to sit down now and I'm going to do these phone calls. Yet there were so many different people keeping it straight in my head. I was on the phone with, what did I have to do? I set up a wire transfer. And the woman called me back from our credit union to confirm it. And she goes, what's the name of the lender where the money's going to? Well, I had been doing so many different portals of stuff. And I'm like, it's a law firm. She's like, yeah, like, let me look it up. And I had to it took me a few minutes to go and look it up and come up, she wanted to confirm, what was my point? It's just that my brain was so busy doing so many things. It was struggling to keep all that straight. So, like you said, it's recognize it. It's finding ways to simplify, to realize that no, you can't really do a million things at once. Our brain can only pay attention to so many thoughts at once.
Well, yeah, and
it can only, there's only retain so many different tasks at one time. This is something I learned about probably in a course relating to the brain and occupational therapy, but we can only, and we'll have to dig into this more and can have another lengthier podcast about it, but we can only retain so many thoughts at one time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you ever watch Dora the Explorer and she repeats 3 things over and over again, map, book, grandma's house, and repeating them over and over. But there's a point where we can only hold so many things in our mind to be able to complete. So that's kind of on a whole nother level of this conversation. As I wrote. And how long have we been talking, Don? Because usually we're very tuned into the amount of time
probably too long
that we spend on a podcast. But right now we're in
They're
the middle
probably thinking this is ridiculous. No.
Right now we're in the middle of moving, so we're having these conversations.
Well, it kind of came up, the thought came up when we talked, because we were thinking about trying to do a podcast while we were like packing or, cleaning up or something like that to actually show us trying to multitask. And I just didn't think that would work really well.
Well, it's
but,
how did we walk around with a
keep our
camera
thoughts.
and our without, we don't have a GoPro with a microphone for the technology, because you're like, well, we could just hold our phone. I'm like, okay, we're going to hold our phone
and try to
and talk and do things at the same time and trying to do so much at once. But it was sort of, right now we're here and now we're in the midst of this move. We're going to continue our podcast. They're still going to be weekly. Know that our other podcasts are usually much more researched and just more thought through, but this is kind of real life, and that's what we're all about. Is
well, and we're about parenting, and for a parent to know this is what a parent does is kind of multitask, and to help understand for a parent to understand that's what's this is what is happening. I think again can help them to pay attention to focus on the things that are most important, but also, know that when you're on this task to focus towards it.
Before you get off and take that tangent even further, when we do workshops with the communication skills classes, and we have several parents, sometimes it's a couple, sometimes it's just one of the parents of the kids, and we do a workshop, a small group, and we bring some expertise in our fields, but also our practical experience as being parents for 25 years. And just the reality of, yes, we have this information, but we give examples of, we don't always use this information ourselves. And, we're human, and we share that in our examples, and that through our experiences and what we've been through, we want to help other people. And so we bring to you this research and other things we've done in our areas of expertise. And also, this the real life of what we've experienced, and that we want to be able to help other people from what we've been through. So we share where we're at. And so
you may be human, but I am alien. I don't know why that came. Robin Williams somehow popped into my head.
Is that where that came from?
I guess Mork from Ork. So that's
podcast.
That's what she said
today.
That's it. That's all, folks.
Like we said, we hope you've enjoyed it. Please do check out. We've been doing this for 1.5 years now, and we have interviews with a whole variety of people. Go to the site, check out all the different lists of podcasts, check out the blog. Some podcasts have blogs to go along with them, and in the future they will have that again once we get settled and back into our routine.
We've done some series. We did one on foster care. We've done one on collaborative divorce, and like you said, the interviews we've done have been really pretty cool.
And let us know other areas you're interested in. We always are interested in hearing your feedback. Find us on Facebook, on Instagram. And remember, how you speak to your children today shapes their future and yours.